The cruel bargain, the market was loud, filled with voices of aliens trading food, metals, and weapons, but at the dark corner of the bazaar stood a cage that pulled every eye. Inside the cage sat a girl, thin and weak, her skin pale and her eyes lowered. A glowing mark burned on her arm. It was the sign of ownership, the brand that said she was not free. She had been trained since childhood to believe she was nothing, a creature to be sold, not a person. Merchants laughed at her silence. They called her a pleasure creature. They whispered that she had no worth beyond being someone's toy. Bidders came. Most of them were alien men with cruel eyes. Some laughed, some made disgusting jokes. The girl stayed quiet, her hands shaking. Deep inside, she wished someone would just end her misery. She had no dream left. Then a strange thing happened. A human man walked slowly through the crowd. Humans were rare in this part of space. Most aliens saw them as simple, stubborn, and too soft. This man looked ordinary, middle-aged, wearing plain clothes. Nothing about him seemed rich or powerful. The merchant shouted, "This creature is cheap. She will obey, she will please, she is branded, you cannot return her." "Only 5 credits, the crowd laughed. 5 credits was the price of old shoes. The man looked at the girl, his eyes calm, not cruel. He did not laugh. He did not touch the bars, he only asked in a quiet voice. "How much? 5 credits, the merchant repeated, smirking. "But do not waste your money, human, she is broken. No fire left in her." Without another word, the man gave the money. The crowd roared in laughter. "A fool human? Buying trash," they shouted. The cage opened. The girl stepped out slowly, expecting to be chained. But the man only nodded to her. "Follow," he said. She walked behind him, confused, waiting for the command that would expose his true intent. She expected pain. She expected hunger. She expected the same fate as before. On the way through the streets, people whispered. "A human bought a pleasure creature, maybe he is more animal than she is," others spat. Some made cruel jokes. The girl lowered her head, shame burning her heart, she thought. "This is my life. I am nothing more than dirt." But when they reached his small home at the edge of the colony, she noticed something strange. There were no chains, no whips, no cruel tools. Only a clean table, a chair, and a simple bed. The man handed her food, warm bread and water. He said nothing. He simply placed it in front of her. She looked at it with wide eyes, waiting for a trap, but hunger won. She ate, tears falling because she could not remember the last time someone gave her food without hurting her. He gave her a blanket, soft and warm, and pointed to a corner. "You can sleep there," his voice calm. Still quiet, the girl curled into the blanket, but she did not sleep. Her mind was racing, she thought. Why is he different? Why is he not using me like the others? In the middle of the night, she woke, expecting chains on her arms, but there were none. She touched her skin and felt only freedom. Yet she could not believe it, she told herself. Maybe he is waiting. Maybe tomorrow he will show his true face. Maybe tomorrow he will remind me that I am only a creature. The man sat quietly by a small lamp, reading something on a datapad. He did not even look at her. He did not even act as if she was there. Her heart beat fast, confusion mixing with fear. This bargain was cruel. But maybe it was cruel in a way she had never known before. For the first time in years, she felt something different. A small spark. Not hope, not yet, but a question. What if this human was not like the others? What if his bargain was not for pleasure, but for something else? The girl closed her eyes again, holding the blanket tight, not knowing that her life had just changed forever. The silent kindness, the morning light slipped through the cracks of the small house. The girl woke slowly, still wrapped in the blanket the man had given her. She touched her arm, still expecting the cold bite of chains, but nothing was there. She was free to move. She sat up quietly, afraid to make a sound, afraid to disturb him in her old life. A noise meant punishment, but now the room was silent. Only the smell of bread baking filled the air. The man was there, sitting at the table, drinking something warm. He looked at her once, not with hunger, not with cruelty, but with calm eyes. Then he said softly, "You are awake, eat." She froze, waiting for the command that would come after, but none came. He pushed a plate toward her, food and fruit more than she had ever seen given freely. Her hands shook as she reached for it. Every bite felt unreal. She kept glancing at him, expecting laughter, expecting him to mock her for believing it was real, but he never did. Instead, he stood and stepped outside, leaving her alone in the room. Her mind raced. Why would he leave me free? Why no lock? Why no watch? Any other man would keep me chained, yet he had left her with food and open doors. She thought of running, but her body did not move. Her feet stayed frozen, because deep inside she was terrified of what waited outside. The world she had known was cruel. The market was cruel. At least here the silence was not filled with screams. Hours passed. He returned carrying wood. He placed it by the fire and spoke only 2 words. "Stay warm." She stared at him, confused. "Why?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The man looked at her with calm eyes. "Because you are cold," the answer broke her inside. No one had ever cared if she was cold. No one had asked if she was hungry. No one had spoken to her like she mattered. But still, fear lived inside her, fear that this was a trick, a trap. At night she tested him. She placed the blanket on the floor and waited. Maybe he would order her to share his bed. Maybe he would reveal what he really wanted. But he simply walked past, lay on his own bed and closed his eyes, leaving her untouched, leaving her confused. Days passed like this. Every day he gave her food. Every night he gave her space. Every hour he gave her silence instead of chains. Her heart began to ache with a new pain, not of hunger or fear, but of something she could not name. One evening, as the stars burned outside the window, she whispered, "Why did you buy me?" The man did not look up from his book. His voice was calm. Because no one else would. She felt her chest tighten. Her brand mark burned as if it wanted to remind her of what she was. "I am a creature," she said in shame. He looked at her finally, his eyes steady. "No, you are not." The words struck her like a weapon. She had never heard them. No one had ever said she was anything more than property. For the first time in her life, she cried not from pain but from something else, something that felt like a crack in the wall she had built inside her heart. But outside the house, the world was watching. Neighbors whispered. Aliens laughed. The human bought a pleasure creature and does not even use her. He is weak, he is broken. The cruel laughter reached her ears. Each word like a knife. She felt ashamed again. Ashamed of the mark, ashamed of her body, ashamed of the name they gave her. But in the quiet of that home, the man's kindness spoke louder than their cruelty. Still, danger was near. Rumors spread quickly in the colony, and not everyone would allow a branded creature to live free. The girl did not know it yet, but the kindness she was beginning to trust would soon be tested by fire, and the cruel world outside would not stay silent for long. Breaking the chains, the whispers in the colony grew louder. Every day when the man walked through the market, aliens smirked. Some even spat near his feet. "He bought a pleasure creature and uses her for nothing." One alien hissed, "What a waste. Humans are strange." "Soft-hearted fools," another mocked. The girl heard all of it, and each word cut into her like sharp glass. She lowered her eyes, hiding the brand on her arm, that glowing mark that told the world she was nothing. At night, she sat by the small fire, her hands pressed over the mark, wishing she could peel it away, but the brand was burned deep into her flesh. A reminder of her chains. One evening, she whispered, "They laugh at you because of me. You should send me back." The man looked up from the corner of the room, his face calm but his eyes firm. "No, I am only shame to you," she said, voice breaking. "I am marked. I am not a person." He stood slowly, walked toward her, and before she could step back, he took her arm gently. "This mark does not decide who you are." His voice was steady. "Not while I live," she trembled, afraid and confused, but he did not hurt her. Instead, he took a small case from the shelf. Inside were tools, clean and sharp. Her heart raced. "What will you do, end this chain?" he answered. The girl's eyes widened. She pulled back. "No, it will hurt." "It will hurt," he agreed. "But it will free you." Suspense filled the room. The girl's fear battled with her longing. She had lived her whole life with the brand. It was all she knew, but his eyes held something unshakable, something she had never seen. Belief in her. Finally, she nodded, tears falling before the pain even began. The man worked carefully, his hands steady. The tool burned against her skin. She bit down on the blanket to keep from screaming. The smell of fire and flesh filled the air, but he did not stop. He worked with patience, every cut, every burn, a strike against the chains that had bound her soul. When it was over, the brand was gone, her skin scarred, but the glowing mark that had shamed her was no more. The girl looked at her arm, breathing hard, tears streaming. She whispered, "I am free." The man nodded, his voice low but powerful. "You always were. You only needed to see it." She broke down, falling to the floor, not from pain, but from the weight leaving her heart. She had never cried like this before, never felt this storm inside her chest, but outside the house, danger stirred. The alien authorities had heard the rumor. They knew a human had dared to remove a brand. For them, this was not just kindness, it was crime. A slave was property, and property could not erase its mark. The next morning, boots thundered outside. Loud voices shouted, "Open the door!" By order of the council, the girl froze in terror, the blanket slipping from her hands, her first taste of freedom already at risk of being torn away. The man stepped forward, his face calm, his voice steel. "Stay behind me." The door shook, his fists pounded, the sound echoing like war drums. The girl clutched her scarred arm, her heart beating like fire. She realized the truth. His bargain was not just kindness, it was defiance. And now the whole world was ready to break it. The world against them, the pounding on the door grew louder, each strike shaking the small house. The girl clutched her arm, the scar still fresh from where the brand had been burned away. Outside, alien voices shouted with anger. "Open now, human, you have broken the law." "A creature cannot be freed. She is property of the market." The man stood tall, his hand near the old weapon by his side, his face calm but his eyes sharp. He spoke to the girl without turning. "Stay behind me, do not fear." Her body trembled. Every sound dragged her back to the market cage. The chains, the laughter, the shame, she whispered. "They will take me back. They will kill you." But he shook his head slowly. "They will not. Not while I breathe." Suddenly, the door burst open. Armed guards in dark armor stepped inside, their glowing eyes scanning the room. The leader pointed at the girl. "She is marked property. You have no right. Hand her over." The man's voice was steel. "She is no property. She is free." The guards laughed. "A human dares to speak of freedom. Do not play hero. Your kind is weak." One guard stepped forward to seize her arm. The girl flinched, but before the hand could touch her, the man moved like fire, his weapon flashed. The guard stumbled back. Armor cracked. Silence fell for a breath, then chaos exploded. The small house filled with sound, the clash of metal, the crack of energy blasts. The girl pressed against the wall, her heart in her throat. The man fought with a fury she had never seen. Each move precise, each strike powerful. He was only one, but his will burned brighter than their numbers. Still, the guards pressed hard, and he knew he could not hold forever. "Run," he shouted to her. "Take the back door. Go to the forest." She shook her head wildly, tears on her face. "I will not leave you." But the fire in his eyes forced her feet to move. She ran through the back, the cold night air cutting her skin. Behind her, the sound of battle echoed. Shouts, crashes, then silence. She stumbled through the dark forest, branches cutting her arms, fear burning in her chest. What if he was gone? What if they caught him suddenly? A hand grabbed her wrist. She gasped, but it was him. Blood on his face, breath heavy but alive. Relief crashed over her like a wave, but he only said, "We cannot stay. They will send more." Together they ran, the forest alive with shadows, the lights of patrols flashing behind them, voices calling, "Find them, the human must die. The creature must return." Each step was heavy with fear, each sound behind them like death approaching. They hid beneath rocks. They crawled through rivers. They moved under the pale glow of alien moons, hunted like animals at one point. As they rested under a broken tree, she whispered, "Why risk everything for me? I am nothing." His answer was quiet but unshakable. "You are not nothing. You are worth more than their laws, more than their chains, more than my life." Her heart shook. She wanted to believe, but the weight of her past was heavy still. His voice planted something inside her, something that felt like strength. The chase stretched into days. The whole colony spoke of them now. The human rebel, the freed creature. Some laughed, some feared, but many wanted them destroyed. Yet among the whispers, a few voices began to wonder. What if the human is right? What if creatures are not creatures but people? The girl did not know it, but their flight was not only for survival. It was the spark of something bigger, something that could break the chains of more than just her. As the night deepened and the patrols closed in, the man held her hand tight, his voice steady. "We will not run forever. Soon we will stand, and when we do, they will see the truth." The girl's eyes filled with fear and fire at once. She realized this was no longer just about her freedom. This was about defying a world that had called her nothing, and the world would not let go without blood. Freedom and love, the hunt stretched for many nights, but at last the man and the girl reached the border of human-controlled space. The stars beyond this line burned brighter, a silent promise of safety, but safety never comes so easy. Ships waited there, alien slavers in dark hulls, their banners glowing with the mark of ownership. They had come to take her back. The girl froze, her scarred arm trembling. "They will not stop. They will kill you. They will drag me away." The man's jaw tightened, his hand on hers. "Then let them try." The alien ship hailed, voices full of arrogance. "Return the branded creature. Human or be destroyed, you have broken our law. The man stood tall before the council platform, his voice steady. She is no creature, she is no slave. She is my wife. The hall fell into silence, even the humans on the council gasped. The aliens roared with laughter. Wife, she is property. You shame your kind, but the man's eyes burned with fire. It is not shame to honor life. It is not weakness to choose love. The girl's heart shook, tears filling her eyes. No one had ever spoken of her like that. No one had ever claimed her as more than dirt. The aliens pressed forward. If you refuse, you declare war. The human council rose, their voices strong. Then let it be known, slavery has no place here. Not today, not ever. Tension cracked the air. Ships turned weapons. Lights flared in the dark sky. For a moment it seemed the stars themselves would burn. The girl stepped forward, her voice trembling but clear. I am not your property. I am not your creature. I am free and I will never return. Her words cut through the silence like a blade. The aliens hissed, but the council's eyes shone. Whispers spread like fire. Some in the crowd nodding, some even cheering. The slavers, humiliated, pulled back with curses. Their pride wounded more than their power. They had lost not just a girl, but the first battle in a war of truth. As their ships vanished into the void, the hall erupted. The girl turned to the man, her scar glowing faintly under the lights. But now it was no longer a chain. It was a mark of survival. He reached out, took her hand, and in that quiet moment, she felt something she had never known. Belonging. You are free now, he whispered, not because of me, but because you chose it, she cried again. But these were not tears of pain. They were tears of hope, of love, of something greater than both of them from that day. The story of the human and the freed girl spread across colonies, whispered in markets, sung in hidden places, sparking questions, sparking fire. Was she the first of many? Was this the start of something larger? No one knew. But for the girl who had once been branded, freedom was no longer a dream. It was real. And in the arms of the man who had chosen love over chains, she finally found her place. The cruel bargain had become the most powerful truth. Even in the darkest markets, humanity could still choose kindness, and kindness could change the galaxy.